Week 6 of my training on the 11-week energy program is where I focus on the energy assessment. And I really love that week because that is the week we can really get into the nitty-gritty of energy management. And I've got a really simple approach to how we carry out that assessment. Now, there's other things around it that we need to be aware of regarding the like and trust with the person who's doing the energy assessment with. But key areas now is the route possibly of the best place to walk around and the best way to actually carry out that energy assessment. And when I look at the building, okay, the first thing we need to be doing is looking at the perimeter of the building. We need to understand what's happening on the outside of that building. And the best time to do that is really early on in the assessment. And the reason why I do it early on is because if we left it right to the end and the weather was to change suddenly, we wouldn't then be able to do it. So you try to get the external walk around really early on within the assessment. So first of all, let's walk around the property, get a really good understanding of what's happening within the organisation. And you get that just by walking around the building with your escort that's guiding you through that day. You can also spend that time building more like and trust with that individual. And as you're walking around, you'll be able to pick up some key areas and it starts to give the flavour for the assessment with that individual as well. They start to understand the sort of things you're looking for. And if you remember, we try to keep that focused as well regarding heating, cooling, lighting, power, energy management and water. They are all the areas that we're going to be focusing on individually regarding each of the sectors and the areas that we're walking around. They're the criteria that we're going to be focusing on. So once we've walked around the building and got a really good feel for the organisation and identified possibly some of these areas, we then go into the building. Now, I always like to head to the top of the building. It's always been something I've done because I find that if I go straight to the top of the building, I can then work my way down. And if you think about it, it's probably going to save time and energy. And by doing it that way, I've always found that the energy assessment has gone very, very clearly and quite concisely. So head to the top of the building, have a look at the roof. Again, focusing on these areas: heating, cooling, lighting, power, energy management and water. Okay. Once we've done the roof area, there may be a plant room there that we could have focused on. There's going to be probably some renewable opportunities there. There might already be renewables in place that we need to just review. And then once we've done it, we then start to work our way back through the building. Again, picking up plant rooms if there are plant rooms available for us to review. Once we've got to that area, we then start to focus on the plant rooms. Now, as we said, they could have been on the roof, but they could be in the basement area. So start to dig into those plant rooms. Again, we're focusing on, don't move away from the areas we're focusing on: heating, cooling, lighting, power, energy management and water. I constantly rotate that in my head wherever I am. That means I never forget what I'm looking for in those buildings areas. So we've now gone through the plant rooms, and then lastly, the focus is metering. We then pick up the metering if we haven't already picked them up as we've been walking around, because metering comes in under the subject of energy management. So again, we're walking around all the areas and focusing in these key points. And then lastly, what we do, we sit down with the organisation, the individual, or maybe the person who engaged us originally. We then start to review possibly all our photographs with them. Very straightforward. Just go through the photographs because they may prompt some things to address there and then. The idea of this energy assessment is to address problems head on. You know, for me, I like to actually look for a saving on that day. So I know that the organisation has benefited from me actually doing that energy assessment. You know, wouldn't it be nice that I identified something that paid for myself on the day? That's one thing that really sort of gives me some reward inside. So these are the key areas that we need to be focusing on. We need to be focusing in these points at all stages: heating, cooling, lighting, power, energy management and water. And then lastly, my last point, remembering this very clearly. It's a energy assessment. We need to be focusing on this. If you go in with the approach that you're going to carry out an audit is where we're going to be really digging in and telling the organisation they're doing something wrong. We don't want that. We want to be working with the organisation. We want to be working with the organisation to bring change to the organisation. That is why we're going to assess what they're doing today in view of changing what they do in the future. So this is my approach on how to carry out an energy assessment. I'd like to say thank you very much for listening. Please put a comment down below. Please follow, please subscribe. And lastly, please, you and your family, stay safe in these times.